I think it's really interesting to have, visionaries and some of the leaders in technology talk to us. And now I'm going to be introducing another one. This is Paul Burns. He is a seasoned and passionate senior executive with over 2 decades of experience. He is the managing director of Twitter. And part of that, he ran a company that I thought was incredible. He was managing director of a company called Huge, and I was always a big fan. So welcome, Paul. It's so nice to see you.
Hey, Alex. Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
What have you thought about some of the conversations that we've been having so far? What's striking you as
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of good stuff in there. Like Garrick, I took like copious notes listening to Rashad. So yeah, so good. So much to think about.
So just talk to us a little bit about how you've been at Twitter for about 2 years, 3 years?
2 years, yeah.
2 years, yeah. So I mean, so that's quite an interesting journey, and now Twitter is the media company that I think is playing such a pivotal role during COVID. Tell us about some of the things you guys are doing.
Yeah, so at the core, Twitter's mission is to serve the public conversation. And when we think about our role on the internet, it's really the conversation layer of the internet. So how do we enable healthy, vibrant conversations about, every topic that exists on Earth? Right now, COVID-19 has been a massive conversation, not surprisingly, on Twitter. And so I think as we think about that conversation and the massive surge in audience we've seen on Twitter, we think about make that conversation healthy. Mm-hmm. How do we ensure that we're delivering reliable information to people? How do we ensure that we give people the right access to health authorities? And so a lot of it just gets back to health and this idea of a healthy conversation. And what does that even mean when things are getting updated and data is changing every second of every day, it feels like. So this is partnering with health experts, countries across the world, make sure that medical officers are verified on the platform. That they're a trusted source of information. When you actually use the search tab on Twitter and type in anything COVID-19 or coronavirus related, you will be directed with a prompt to go to your local country's health and information page. So things like this at a product level are things that we're trying to do to make sure that we're ensuring the conversation is healthy and that people have the information that they need when they need it.
So tell me, one of the things I thought was interesting was Twitter was one of the first companies to sort of tell its employee base that even post-COVID, they, working from anywhere is going to be the mantra. So tell us a little bit about that. And then also tell us just any other, kind of interesting observations about working for Twitter during this time and just things that perhaps surprised you or things that you think are inspiring enough to share with the community.
Yeah. So Jack's vision, our co-founder, Jack Dorsey, his vision has always been to have a decentralized company. And I think when you have a technology organization, so much of technology is headquartered in San Francisco. And so I think his belief is, we're a global company. We service a global audience. Why are we so centralized and weighted in Silicon Valley? We shouldn't be. And so I think the belief is that this notion of a headquarters is it's a dated idea. And so, and if you're talented, you should be able to work for Twitter irrespective of where you live. Right. And so I think that's the vision. And we've been talking about this idea for years. And I think into this pandemic, we made an announcement. We were one of the first companies to make an announcement to work from home. And I think we really demonstrated to ourselves that actually, we can make this is actually possible for us as a company. And so we made the announcement a couple weeks ago that if you want to work from home forever, the ability to do that. Put that choice in the employee's hands. We don't want to force that on anyone. For some people, it's not a realistic option to work from home. But for many who have a long commute or it's a massive convenience, we want to make sure that you have that choice. So this is all about giving people the choice and trusting your people that they're going to do the right thing. So that's really the motive behind that decision.
How old is Twitter? Remind me.
Twitter is 14 years old.
So it's a
14 years old.
so I see, I see sort of those steps of just, it's almost like your own, I don't know if it's digital transformation, but your own business transformation. And that's an example of really becoming more human, to sort of, touch on one of the topics that Rashad said. So are there other things that you're sort of like, as you're maturing as an organization, as you've kind of gone through those early stages where, let's face it, social media has had its, like in some ways, I think this is the Renaissance, right? It's this golden age where we're able to communicate, get views, get point of views. And on the other hand, there are some things that are challenging, but that we're evolving. So as you think about that evolution and the path forward, what do you see? How do you see this changing? What do you think we're going to keep? What do you think is going to, what's your view?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. I think, no. I think, if I'm being honest, I think there were many years in the early days where we just had this meteoric rise, and lost who we were. We kind of lost our way a bit. And I think what makes Twitter so special is the fact that it's conversational. So we think about it from a product level perspective. How do we make the platform significantly more conversational? What's different about Twitter too, I think, with other social platforms, is that where other social platforms you might see a user mindset that is primarily look at me, me broadcasting myself to the world. Twitter's never been about that. We've always been about look at this. So something will happen in the world, a news event, a sports event, a television show, a natural disaster, an amazing moment, and people will get together and talk about those things. And so I think it's really getting clear on who we are, why we exist. And that thing I stated at the outset, this idea of serving the public conversation, I think, our mission is to make sure that Twitter becomes a daily utility for people, that they can use Twitter to provide real-time conversation on any topic that you're interested in. So,
I think that's not just amazing. I also think it's really brave of you to actually share it that openly, because I personally, as an advertiser, see that as the evolution, the idea of the share the couch and not feeling alone, because Twitter, on a topic of interest really kind of galvanizes people. And you saw it in Toronto all weekend long. I mean, the controversy in Trinity Bellwood, the weather, today it's boiling hot in Toronto for those of you that are not here, so we're sort of following all of that. And I think it's just it's almost a part of our culture now. It almost supersedes the news. It's part of the way that we live. I mean, and that's a pretty incredible responsibility, both in terms of working for them, but also just being part of that platform. I just think it's such a fascinating part of digital transformation.
Yeah, no. It's an amazing. We always say Twitter is sort of heartbeat and operating system for culture. I don't know if you saw The Last Dance on Netflix. Yeah. Amazing show. If you haven't watched that sports documentary, Michael Jordan doc. And, we just saw this unbelievable confluence of a lack of sports content in the world, this beautifully shot, amazing storytelling about this incredible NBA franchise, the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, and just this unbelievable meteoric rise at the same time when a year ago, this moment, we saw the Raptors make an incredible playoff runs. So you start to see insights in what matters to people, what they care about. And in this case, you see the gaping void that people have for sports and the just need to be included in great content right now.
Also, I would say my view on that, is just following Twitter and listening to those conversations, because I was watching, the programming as Netflix was releasing its sequencing, and it was also about the conversation around leadership and around, how to manage a star, how to be a star, how to run an organization. Anyway, I thought it was fascinating. Okay, the TechTO team is flashing at me. We're coming to the end of our 10 minutes, but I want to ask you, so two questions. One is, what piece of advice do you want to share with the community? And what's one thing that I haven't asked you that you want to share?
Yeah. One thing I would share with this community is there's a lot of scary stuff happening in the world right now. I would just say, don't waste this moment. If you and you're fortunate, you know, have a place to live, this is an incredible moment to not waste. There's this great line in, I'm going to quote Lord of the Rings. I can't believe I'm doing this. But there's this great line in Lord of the Rings. Gandalf says this line. He says, all we have to decide is what to do with the time given us. And I think we've been given, for a lot of us, we've been given a gift with this time. So I feel like, I guess a message for the community, the TechTO community, would be: don't look back on this time and wish you had done something. Don't look back on this moment and say, man, I wish I would have, actually taken that risk, or started that podcast, or learned a language, or developed a skill. I would say, just like, now's the time to do it, and don't waste this moment. So that answers your first question. The second question, one thing that I'd love for you to know about is our founder and CEO, Jack Dorsey. He started an initiative where he's directing $1 billion of funding towards hashtag Start Small LLC. And if you have this out, this is an organization that is basically tasked with fighting COVID relief. And he's very transparent. Follow him on Twitter @Jack. He's got a Google Doc where he just very openly and very transparently updates where he's allocating funds to combat this horrible disease. So check it out. It's pinned to his timeline. But yeah, thanks for having me. This was awesome. And
thank you. I'm sorry it's so short, but if not now, then when is the thing that I take away from you.
True.
And that is massive inspiration. I use it all the time. Do something, raise your hand, positively contribute, and change your life now. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you spending the time. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.